Welcome to the mythical creatures.
This heavenly association is mirrored in her attire, often depicted as a gossamer gown that shimmers like the night sky or the iridescent wings of a butterfly. In addition to purity and beauty, the Faerie Queene embodies wisdom and judgment. She serves as an ultimate authority within her realm, maintaining harmony and ensuring that justice prevails. Her interactions with mortals frequently test their character, demanding qualities like humility, courage, and integrity. Faerie queens in folklore are known to present moral challenges to knights or heroes, who often must perform some task or quest to prove their worth. The queen's rewards are frequently symbolic: a vision of truth, an enchanted artifact, or simply a blessing that brings prosperity. The Faerie Queene is also deeply tied to nature, embodying its beauty, abundance, and cruelty. Her realm is typically portrayed as a paradise filled with ethereal creatures, eternal spring, and unspoiled beauty. However, this paradise can quickly turn perilous, reflecting the belief that fairy magic is not bound by human morality. Like nature, the Faerie Queene's rule can be both nurturing and deadly. The Faerie Queene in folklore and mythology. In British and Irish folklore, the Faerie Queene is known by various names, such as Mab or the Queen of Elfham in Scotland. These traditions paint her as both a ruler and an occasional tormentor of mortals, a figure who leads the fairy host, or the Seelie Court, on nightly rides through the countryside. The Seelie Court, which she presides over, is often contrasted with the Unseelie Court, fairies who delight in mischief and malice. In this duality, the Faerie Queene's role is to maintain balance in her realm, encouraging goodwill among her followers, but capable of enforcing harsh discipline on those who disobey her. One fascinating myth is that of the Faerie Queene's wild hunt, where she leads a ghostly procession of fairies, spirits, and sometimes the souls of the dead. This spectral parade was feared and revered, believed to portend great events or signify supernatural judgment. In these tales, the Faerie Queene is both a goddess of the dead and a guide of souls, adding an eerie, otherworldly dimension to her character. Those who saw the wild hunt were believed to be blessed with mystical visions, but those who crossed its path recklessly might fall victim to fairy curses, or even be swept away to the other world. The enchantment of the Faerie Queene in modern times. The allure of the Faerie Queene continues in modern times, with her influence visible in contemporary fantasy literature, film, and art. Authors such as J.R.R. Tolkien, C.S. Lewis, and Holly Black have drawn on the archetype of the fairy ruler, creating characters who embody the mystical qualities of the Faerie Queene, while reinterpreting her for new audiences. Tolkien's Galadriel, for instance, shares the Faerie Queene's wisdom, beauty, and power, acting as a guide to heroes while remaining detached from their mortal struggles. In modern fairy tales, the Faerie Queene often serves as a protector of the natural world, a character whose magic is tied to preserving forests, animals, and ancient lands. This role reflects current environmental concerns and repositions the Faerie Queene as a figure of ecological guardianship. Fantasy stories and films like Labyrinth and Pan's Labyrinth similarly portray Faerie Queens as complex figures whose help comes with strings attached, reminding audiences that the fairy world, while beautiful, operates by its own rules. The mystical qualities of the Faerie Queene. At the heart of the Faerie Queene's allure is her duality. She is both a dream and a danger, embodying the mystery of worlds just beyond human sight. Her qualities represent the union of opposites, benevolence and wrath, beauty and terror, wisdom and whimsy. Whether depicted as a gentle ruler or a formidable judge, the Faerie Queene remains a symbol of the mysterious forces that lie beyond ordinary perception. She represents the yearning for ideals and the quest for self-discovery, prompting heroes to journey into the unknown and challenging them to grow through their trials. Her magical allure suggests that some mysteries should remain unsolved, that wonder and beauty may fade if fully explained. The Faerie Queene's gift is her ability to evoke this sense of awe, reminding us of realms where logic does not apply, where love, courage, and transformation are the only currencies of value. In the end, the Faerie Queene endures because she speaks to something timeless within the human heart. Her legends remind us of the beauty in mystery, the value in virtue, and the magic that lingers at the edges of our reality. As long as there are tales of enchanted forests, of brave knights, and of worlds hidden within ours, the Faerie Queene will reign, inspiring dreams, guiding heroes, and casting her ethereal light over the imagination of those willing to venture beyond the veil of the everyday. The Faerie Queene has been a figure of enchantment and allure in literature, mythology, and folklore for centuries. Known as the sovereign of the magical, mystical realm of fairies, her depiction spans a broad range, from the elegant and benevolent to the complex and occasionally fearsome. Central to the rich tapestry of Western literary tradition, the Faerie Queene's legend captures both the wonder and mystery of fairy life, serving as a bridge between the human world and the realms of myth. Among her most famous depictions is in Edmund Spenser's epic poem, The Faerie Queene, but her character resonates in folk tales, Shakespeare's plays, and romantic tales alike. She symbolizes magic, beauty, wisdom, and, at times, an unpredictable temperament that adds depth to her legend. The origins of the Faerie Queene. The Faerie Queene's origins trace back to early European folklore. In Celtic mythology, she is often aligned with figures like the Irish goddess Ina or the Welsh figure Arianrhod. Both of these figures embody elements of beauty, power, and supernatural influence, characteristics commonly associated with the Faerie Queene. The ancient Celts believed in the otherworld, a realm inhabited by fairies, spirits, and deities. This mystical land could only be glimpsed by humans under special conditions, often at twilight or in liminal spaces, such as the edge of forests or beside rivers. The Faerie Queene ruled over this domain, presiding over a kingdom hidden from mortal eyes, accessible only to those with supernatural aid or unearthly luck. Over time, the Faerie Queene's influence spread beyond Celtic lands. In the Middle Ages, when romantic chivalry blossomed across Europe, her image morphed to fit the courtly ideals of beauty, wisdom, and a sense of moral authority. She became a protector and judge, often depicted as a figure who tested knights and kings, rewarding the virtuous and punishing the ignoble. By the time of the Renaissance, she was transformed in popular culture into an archetype of idealized beauty and grace, a symbol of the exotic, powerful, and unattainable. Edmund Spenser's The Faerie Queene. The most famous literary work featuring the Faerie Queene is The Faerie Queene by Edmund Spenser, published in 1590. This epic poem not only immortalized her in English literature, but also established her as a complex character in her own right. In the poem, the Faerie Queene, named Gloriana, rules over a fantastical land and serves as a metaphor for Queen Elizabeth I. Spenser's work was both a chivalric romance and an allegorical tale, blending mythology, Christian morality, and the ideals of Elizabethan England. Gloriana in the Faerie. Queene embodies both the mystical qualities associated with fairies and the virtues of a Renaissance monarch. She symbolizes purity, justice, and an almost divine grace, but she is also distant, a figure only spoken of and never directly encountered by the protagonists. This adds to her mystique. She is a ruler who inspires quests and heroic deeds, but remains elusive, a figure at the center of her kingdom's harmony and order. Spenser's poem does not merely present her as a fairy tale figure. She is the embodiment of aspirations, of the unreachable ideals that drive knights like the Red Cross Knight or Sir Gawain to acts of heroism. The Faerie Queene in Shakespearean and Elizabethan lore. William Shakespeare's A Midsummer Night's Dream features Titania, another memorable fairy queen. Unlike Gloriana, Titania is both regal and accessible, embodying the fairy nobility while possessing a whimsical, passionate nature. She shares her rulership with Oberon, the fairy king, and together they preside over a world where love, jealousy, and enchantment create a tapestry of intricate relationships. In A Midsummer Night's Dream, the Faerie Queene's love for the mortal-turned-donkey Bottom shows both the mischievous nature of fairies and the transformative power of magic. Titania's character reveals another side of the Faerie Queene's persona, one that is tied to the natural world and its rhythms. Shakespeare weaves her into the play as a symbol of both beauty and nature's caprice. She reflects the inherent duality of fairy characters in folklore, her beauty and kindness balanced by her capacity for wrath and jealousy, emotions that drive the action of the play. Shakespeare's Titania is one of the earliest portrayals of the Faerie Queene as a character who is both powerful and vulnerably human. Themes and symbols associated with the Faerie Queene. The Faerie Queene has always been rich in symbolism. Across different literary works, she is often associated with themes of purity, beauty, enchantment, and transformation. In medieval literature, her image was closely connected with light, the moon, and stars, positioning her as a celestial figure, separate from earthly concerns and closer to the divine.
Thanks for watching. It will be nice to see you again in the world of mythical creatures.